is TWiP. All right, let's dive in. This week's topic is/was music.
Musica.
As sorted by Troy Miller again. And let's dive into it. First one is James Glennie, the music I grew up with. Let's take a look. Let's see if Mighty's going to cooperate today.
I know. Oh, there it goes. Finally, it's funny because if yours is loading slow, mine loads slow, which means that it's just loading slow.
It's just slow. Yeah. I got pretty fast internet here. So.
Right.
All right. Okay. This looks like a album and a needle on the album of some sort.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Mm-hmm. I remember these. This doesn't look like it's expensive as some of the ones that we've seen posted in was it the critique? Did Stephen post a stylus in the critique at some point? I don't know. But this one's cool. This one's cool. I like how close he is on this, and obviously it's filling the frame. But I was thinking about this, I was like, okay, yeah, it's a needle on a record. But then I was thinking, only a certain demographic is going to know exactly what this is, right? For everyone else, it's like, what is that? Where does the where are the buttons on that? Completely, mostly analog.
Yeah, and what really got me was, I just got done building that stereo system with Kira, the amp and the turntable. We got a turntable. Stephen helped me find this turntable, and just absolutely loving it. So right away, I recognized that. I think, though, for a music aspect and to really sort of grasp what this is, I really wish we could see the needle, and that's my whole thing. I mean, I even don't mind the dust on it, although, being a bit of an audiophile, like I would want, the cartridge and the arm and everything to be really clean because I don't want that dust on my record. But it makes it also feel normal, right? Like it's every day. But I just wish we could see the actual stylus touching the record itself. But
yeah, and the lint that gathers right there. Remember that?
Not if you have a clean record.
I remember that. You gotta blow it off and put it back on there. Yeah, that was old school for sure, man.
But this is great. This is one of those things like you could totally do a series of music, and as James spelled it out, of just various macro components of a music system, right? From a volume knob to maybe a power light to, the stylus, to the back of the arm, to the spindle pin, all kinds of stuff. So this is really neat.
Yeah, this is fun. There's a lot you could do here. Yeah. Unfortunately, I do not own any machines like this in my home anymore. I can't remember. I honestly cannot remember. It's been decades. I can't remember the last time I put an album on a record player and gently lowered the needle onto it. It's been at least 25 years since I've done that. It's crazy. Crazy.
It's something that Kira loves. Stephen obviously is very into it. And it wasn't something that I thought that I would enjoy as much as I do. So now when Kira's not home, I go in there and I put on a record, and it's great. I love it. It. And I think a lot like, somebody going back to shooting film, I think that there's this physical interaction with pulling the album out of the selection, pulling the disc itself, out of the sleeve, and physically placing it. And like, there's all these mechanics, and I never realized how important the mechanics were to all of that. And the photography is a lot the same way, right? If it's just virtual and we don't touch it, then I think we do miss something. So
it's the ritual. Yeah, I get it. I get the ritual. Yeah, I get the ritual side of it and the importance of that and the intentionality, I guess, is the word of like, okay, I'm going to actually go into music listening mode and sit there and enjoy the sounds that come off of this record that people labored so hard to put on there. I get all that. But then, the other side, this is a completely different conversation. The other side is having access to 4 billion songs, and just like on a whim. Like yesterday, we were out driving on a whim and I'm like, you know what, let's listen to some Johnny Cash, because we went up to Folsom, in the Sacramento area. So we're like, I want to listen to Live from Folsom Prison, right? In the car on the way, one hand, boom, pull it up, and we're listening to Johnny Cash as we entered Folsom. You can't do that with records, but pluses and minuses on either side. But cool, so, what? Before we leave this one, Troy, I wanted to ask you about the processing on this. It seems like it's a little on the flat side. Do you think that adds to it, takes away from it? Do you think it's flat? What do you think?
I don't think it's flat because, looking at the specular highlights on the connectors on the back of the cartridge itself and looking at the specular highlights on the screw on the top. No, I don't think it's flat. I just think there's a lot of black. Right. And it's not, it has light hitting it. So it's not going to go pure crushed black, which we do have some really, really dark blacks in reflection on the LP itself. So I actually think the tonality is really great. So I'm good with that. The one thing that I'm thinking is I would probably crop up from the bottom because I don't think we need that highlight down there on the bottom. Bring it up a little bit and focus on, just the cartridge itself or the head of that.
So kind of like a crop like this, or
maybe a little bit lower, but no, I like the full width, but just that, just get rid of that super hot spot at the bottom.
Yeah. Nice
conversion though. I like it.
Yep, very good, very cool, awesome. All right, let's move right along to the next one. If I can get this off the screen, clear all drawings. There we go. Still learning how to annotate here.
Yeah, I haven't figured that out. I haven't played with it yet.
it's so weird. Next up is Amy Brooks, The Zone, Where Time Has No Meaning.
I like that. That should be.
When I saw this shot, I thought Eric Clapton. I just thought, I forget pick any Eric Clapton song, throw it in here.
Right. I dig this. I think that it's super cool. I love the mood that he's in and the fact that he's really focused on his guitar. I can tell that it's a nylon string, so I can kind of in my head I can kind of imagine what it sounds like. So I think that that's really neat. The beat up guitar case and everything.
Yeah.
The biggest struggle for me is two parts. I don't like his leg cut off on the lower left, and I probably would have brought it up just above his left foot, so that
right here, right in there,
above his left foot.
Oh, here.
Yeah, right below, right, maybe just a little bit of his hind end, and then that would get rid of his left foot and would feel less amputated.
Yeah.
I think that would be a better crop, and I just wish the car wasn't in the background.
Oh, right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, you're not going to get rid of that in post.
No, but it's one of those kind of things in the image, it's not horribly distracting, but I know it's there. But during the shooting, I'm wondering could you have cropped tighter or moved a little bit? And sometimes not. And it doesn't ruin the image.
Yeah. Yeah, when I saw this one, I thought this little detail right here was really interesting to me because it says so much about what's going on in this shot. So then I was thinking, okay, if that's interesting to me, I agree with you on the foot cut off and all that, but I was thinking, why not push in even more tight so that we could have more emphasis on that, lose all these pixels that aren't in service to the image or most of them, and maybe do a crop something like this. Or maybe a little bit wider, maybe like this, kind of like that. So now the story is about this raggedy guitar case, this guy who's just, maybe he comes to this park bench. He's been coming to this park bench every day for the last 20 years, and this is his spot. And that, instead of seeing all of his jeans and his shoes and all that other stuff, it's more about the expression on his face, the guitar, and that ratty case. And then we have less of the car in there too. But,
right. And I like this image enough that if it was mine, I would try to remove the car. It's going to be painstaking. And, you know, to do it really well, to mask out around his face and everything like that, you know, to get his, you know, to keep his beard and everything. But you got lots of this data of the street to pull from, to clone in over there.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I think you could
too.
Yeah. I think you could do it. It's going to be time consuming, but I think this is an image worth putting the time into, because I love, you know, he's got that little furrowed brow and he's clearly concentrating there and doesn't even know, you know, Amy's there. Doesn't even know somebody's taking his photo.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about the processing, the black and white conversion?
I like it. You know, I like it a lot. I like the flatness of it. The thing that I struggle with is that the background, the street is brighter than him. And so this really isn't about, you know, the conversion, because I think the conversion's nice. I would just like to see more light on him than the background, which is just dodging and burning.
Yeah. Yep. Cool shot though. Very cool.
Yeah, that's one of the things. If you guys haven't seen Joshua do a stream, one of the things that Joshua does is he spends a lot of time de-emphasizing the background. And on some of his images, I mean, he'll spend an hour just selecting a subject so that he can focus on reducing distractions in the background. And it makes such a difference in the image. You know, it's subtle, but man, is it really make a huge difference.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. And shallowed up the field also, right? Getting it in the shot and shooting, if possible, with a really wide aperture, because if this was shot with a really wide aperture, considering the subject to lens distance, then maybe that car wouldn't have been, you know, such, I don't want to use the word egregious, but it wouldn't have been distracting back there. It would have been a blurry mess, right? Which would have just made it the background.
Yeah, lens choice is a really important thing here. I mean, this seems to me to be a longer lens. I'm guessing, you know, 150 to 200 millimeter or something like that, maybe at 2.8 or f4. But that creates compression, right? So that actually brings the car in. So if you were to shoot wider and move in closer, you may have been able to hide the car behind his body entirely.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Or take a step to the right. Yeah.
Yeah. But not having been there when the shot was taken, we don't know what the environment
We don't know. Yeah. We don't know. Yeah.
We never know.
Yeah. Decisions you can't. I guess the very definition of this critique session is armchair quarterbacking, right? So
right. Well,
we're looking at them, you know, we don't know the physics and the situation that was happening when these shots were taken. We're only judging them based on the pixels that we see in front of us. So.
Yeah. I like what Amy said in the chat. She says, Valerie Jardin is shaking her finger at me. Yeah, Valerie wouldn't even have taken the photo, right? Like, according to Valerie, she wouldn't even have pushed the button.
Why? Why do you think that?
She said she doesn't take photos with cars in the background.
Oh, with cars. Oh, yeah, that's right. Right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, so self-imposed restrictions.
We all have them.
Yeah, we do. We totally do. Next up is Armando, who's also in the Zoom. Is he still? Yeah, he's in the Zoom. Hey, Armando. He says this was in the middle of the night at an event that we used to have in Sao Paulo that ran 24 hours. You know, and it had about 1,000 different attractions. Wow. Okay. I want to go. Oh, nice. Look at that. This is moody.
Yeah, this is really cool. I see two images in this photo, you know, the woman standing at the chair, which I'm very intrigued by, wondering, you know, what is she doing? And then, you know, this gentleman with the cello, who he's not playing. So it makes me wonder what's going on at this moment, right? Like his head is down. I can't see his face. He's resting his hand on his knee. It really feels like there's two distinct stories happening in here. And I'm struggling with whether or not I would crop her out and keep just the musician, you know, for the music category.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I was looking at this and I was thinking three things. I was thinking, I like the atmospherics in this, and that, you know, it's got this kind of haze that puts you in this environment. I like that a lot. the thing that I'm questioning is this border action right there and right here, which gives us two borders, which makes me think, oh, I feel like I need another one over here and over here in order to complete, because it feels like it's almost bordered but not bordered and doesn't know if it wants to be bordered or not. So, to get rid of that, maybe crop in a little bit so that we get rid of that area, or lean into it and border the thing. And then the other thing I was thinking, I'm curious what you think about this, Troy. You've played with content-aware scale in Photoshop, right? Where you can move objects closer together in posts. And I was thinking, if you took this shot and just scaled it so that he's closer, which you could do in a select all content-aware scale, drag over, right? And lose some of this space in the middle, would it make them a little bit more intimate and put them kind of in the same story? I think what you're talking about feels like there's the space in between them disconnects them too much. But if you pull him in, not so much that, it feels like she's going to be impaled by the bow there, but bring him in just a little bit so they feel like they're in the same frame, and then lose the, the border action here. I wonder if that would have add to the photo. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a very interesting photo because there's so many things about it that I'm trying to decide what I like. I love the border, as you referred to it, as across the bottom. That's the floor of the stage. It feels like the stage to me. The right side, I know that's the curtain, but it does kind of bother a little bit, but that's minor because I feel like if I know this is a stage performance, then that's okay. So here's really where the struggle is with an image like this, is if this is going to be shown to a community that understands this is a stage performance, it's going to tell a different story than if it's shown to somebody that has no idea, right, that it's a stage performance. And that's where the disconnect is. I really think that all of the things you mentioned would help this a lot. And this is one of those things I would certainly play with. But I think, like, specifically sticking with the music genre, I would probably crop her out. And I would leave as much foreground in front of him as possible. And to me, that's just this person performing on stage all by himself. He's slightly obscured, so he's kind of pushed back, like feels like he's not really getting a lot of acceptance or something, or maybe it's not going well. I dig all of that.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, if you crop it like this, then those chairs in the background actually become players in it too, because you're like, he's sitting there on stage playing to no one. Yeah. Maybe he's practicing. Yeah, I see what you mean.
It's a really powerful image, no matter how we dissect it. But I just think it's important to realize that who's your audience, and if they don't understand what this is it going to make sense? And to me, this woman standing there doesn't make any sense. What makes sense to me is this musician, this celloist, and the debris on the stage, his body language, even the fact that the back right chair leg isn't on the ground.
Look at you, so nice.
I feel a little uneasy because that chair probably rocks, and I hate that.
That right there is Troy Miller's attention to detail. Look at that. That was it, like 3 pixels separation right there. That's awesome. I never would have. I did not even see that. My brain did not even connect that. That's awesome to see how your brain works with that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. And that's why I'm drawn between these two elements. I mean, if we crop out the musician and we have just her, there's like this wind blowing into her because I can see how the dress wraps around her legs. So there's some environment there. She's standing very casually. She's not posing. She doesn't seem to be performing because I don't see any activity in her body. So it's almost like a pause or a deep breath or contemplation. I see those two images in there. Yeah. I don't know. I could be reading a lot into it.
Yeah. Well, what you tend to do. So yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. And this is why I don't get a lot of my own personal stuff edited, because I just sit there and can't decide what I want to do with it.
You get stuck. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Armando. Very cool. Next up is Eric Pronsky. And Eric says, guitarist in a bakery, street shot in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. Looking in, this guitarist standing in a bakery as the owner of the bakery is looking on. Disclosure, I did tip him a few bucks to pay. Oh, nice. Oh.
Nice.
Look at that. That's awesome.
That's so
I know
good.
what you're going to say. I know. I feel like I know what you're going to critique this image as.
Yeah, I have two strong opinions. Go ahead.
Okay, this is me. I'm going into Troy Miller. I should put on my beanie. I'm in Troy Miller challenging mode. You're gonna say punch in and crop it a little bit tighter because we want to see. This is a story right here, right? Kind of right there. And this badge doesn't really add to it. The sign back there, because we want to see words. And this one over here is kind of distracting us from it. But if we push in, we get the two faces, we get the strumming of the guitar and the hand on the fret up here, and then the guy in the background, which is the onlooker. They all start telling the stories. The rest of this outside of that isn't adding to it, other than I think if the purpose of the story was to, it was important that they're in place, they're in a bakery, in which case, I think even going like this, if it was important to show that they're in a bakery, maybe like this would have done it. I don't know. Was I close?
Oh yeah, you were really close. I like the second crop better because I want to see the whole guitar. And I appreciate the fact that the whole guitar is in there. The refrigerator to the left, I would leave a little bit of it, but I would probably end up burning it down just so it doesn't compete with his face. But I feel like that adds to the environment of where he's at. And just as presented, I love that. I would spend some time and burn down that highlight that's reflecting off the back wall. Behind the guitar, above the owner, above the guitarist.
Oh yeah, right here. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would spend some time and get that highlight down because I think it's very distracting. Other than that, I mean, the way that it's presented is fantastic. I just wish that we could see a little bit more of the owner's face, which all Eric would have had to do was lean to the right ever so slightly, and his face would have not been obscured behind the guitar or the arm. But that's that's not in pixels. We don't have that, but with what we have, I like those adjustments. I like this a lot. I love his smile, the candidness of it. I mean, it's great. The motion in his right hand. I feel I can hear it. I can hear him playing that chord, and it's great.
Yeah. That's so cool. What chord is that? What is he playing, Mr. Guitarist?
It looks like it's a C chord with an added, I don't know what that is. It's like a modified C chord. I'm not that good, but it definitely looks like a C chord.
Hey, you may have some guitaring. You may, playing La Bamba. You may have some guitaring competition soon. Cameron got a guitar last night, so look out. Okay. She's gonna be jamming. She thinks she's a rock star now.
Yeah, he's playing that. That's what he's playing.
Oh, nice. There you go. So you should have done a self-portrait for this, Troy.
All right, this is great, Eric.
Yeah, this is cool. Thank you. He says in the chat, he says he thinks he's playing La Bamba. And thank you, Eric. Now that's in my head. So for the rest, I got Eric Clapton and La Bamba in my head now.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't have a nylon string guitar, which would probably be pretty fun to have. They sound very cool.
They're available.
I have too many.
Next up is Craig Colvin, St. Patrick's Day drumline. Oh. Where is this? This wasn't this past St. Patrick's Day, was it? Because they seem to be missing some facial accoutrement.
Yeah, which is making me nervous.
Yeah, right. Oh man, we went up to, when we were in Sacramento yesterday. We went to Old Sac, which is kind of the old kind of saloony looking area in Sacramento, and they had a carnival up there with Ferris wheels, and it was nothing but people, and maybe one mask per 100 people up there. So we were driving through and hightailed it out of there, but I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Capital of California.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be weird for me to reintegrate. It's just going to be weird going from never thinking about it to now it's never going to not think about it.
Yeah. It's crazy. Cool. What do you think of this shot? I have an idea of what you're going to say. You're going to say there's multiple shots in here, I think. Because just because I know that how you feel about people that are cut off in the frame and having a centralized or central character in a shot. So I feel like you probably see two shots in here. Am I right?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I love this is about the kids, right? This is a photo of the kids in there, and everybody else is a distraction.
Yeah.
And I think that just pushing in and doing, even just a horizontal, maybe cropping off the left legs, maybe just really focusing on the kids. I like seeing the drums around them. I like seeing, the mystery of what's happening. But yeah, this is like just a vertical crop of just the kids. That's great.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking exactly the same thing. I was thinking, if you vertically crop this is a sloppy crop, but kind of like this, and maybe not even show all of this guy's face, maybe even just this much of it, because he's like, the Charlie Brown faceless adult up there.
I would crop
you gotta go like that, right?
Just below the drummer's right hand. Don't show his hand. So go all the way.
Wait, below this hand?
His right hand.
Oh, his right hand. Oh, yeah. So you're like just the kid. Yeah. Oh, like that?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You don't want to see the hands in there?
Yeah. So then all you see are the drums. They don't distract from the kids. You can see that the boy is looking up, and we know it's an adult, right? Because of the big drum next to him. He's got his little drum. I mean, the story is all within that crop with those kids. We don't need the rest of it. And then it adds a little bit of a storytelling mystery that we can kind of figure on our own. But this is all about those kids.
I think I would probably, everything's subjective, but I think I would put at least the hands in there, so that maybe you got this little guy mirroring those big hands above him, right?
Yeah, and this is one of those images. I think I've said it before. This is one of those images that I would crop. I would leave it open in Photoshop, and I would walk in and out, and I would look at it, and then I might crop another one, because it's so subtle depending on the story that you want to tell. Yeah, but definitely crop it in nice and tight.
Yeah.
Some version of that. And I like it. Yeah, it's great. I love the color, the Hello Kitty with the green and the Lucky Charm, and their sandals and the little.
Yeah, it is so interesting when we talk about these shots, because we look at these shots and they can, with cropping and composition, they can go very much from, it's a sliding scale, obviously, but going very much from the snapshot documentary street photography spectrum to the right, where it seems more intentional. Right. So because as we're looking at perfectly good shot, and this takes us into St. Patrick's Day, we know what's going on, but with a crop like we were talking about, like this, then it becomes more photojournalistic, I think, because now you're telling an obvious story in here. And if you process it and, maybe do a little dodging and burning, so you even emphasize this little guy even more, it becomes more intentional about what the photographer meant versus, hey, look at the scene that I saw and I want to capture it because it looks pretty interesting. So it's interesting how much power there is there.
Oh, absolutely. Something that I do at weddings is I ask myself, is this scene worthy by itself, or do I need to add something to it or take something out of it? And with that said, if those two kids were not in this scene, would you have framed this exactly the same way and taken that photograph?
Yeah.
Right. Or would you have just let them, go by? Like, was it because of the kids that this image was worth taking? And if so, did you represent your vision accurately because, you cropped so much of the scene, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. You're basically saying put weight on your subject. You know, the subject of this is those kids. So all things are in service of that kid. And you're telling the story of the kid, kids.
Right.
All right. Very good. All right. That was Craig. Thank you, Craig. And next up is Nora. Nora says, steam-powered giraffe, street performance at Balboa Park in San Diego. Thanks to Timber Geek for identifying the group. All right, let's take a look.
Oh, nice.
Nice. The guitars, man. It's like been a guitar-themed week for me. I don't know what's going on.
I just want to know how that dude is playing that guitar with gloves on.
Very carefully.
Yeah, I just don't know. I have hard enough time as it is. And then also I'm interested, how is it that Raphael knows who these guys are?
Hey, who knows? But what do you think of the shot though? I'm curious what you think color-wise. Does this benefit from colors because it's more of a steampunk vibe? Should it have been more of a crispy, gritty black and white, or is it good like this? What do you think about the crop?
This is this is one of those kind of shots that I struggle with, wondering, like, do I just look at this as purely photojournalistic? Or do I look at this as maybe something that the photographer had control over? And I say that because, the right hand pointing at me that's out of focus, I think, is a little distracting. None of them are looking at me. None of them are looking at the camera. They're kind of looking off. So I feel like it's kind of a photojournalistic capture.
Yeah.
I like the attitude. I like what's going on. We do have the background feels quite distracting. So some dodging and burning would really, really help to bring us in on that core center. I don't know what color his face is, but like blue or gray.
Yeah, I struggled with this one because I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, the most interesting thing in the shot to me are the expressions on the faces. But then, like you pointed out, it's also interesting to see the guitar with gloves playing a guitar and this guy that's close to us doing the motion blur there. It's the whole thing. You can't really get rid of much in this shot without losing part of the story, I don't think. So I would leave it as is, but like you said, I maybe do a little vignetting to maybe bring focus into the faces a little bit without any cropping. This person that's obscured back there is detracting from the shot, I think. So if that person wasn't there, they would have been a better shot, and maybe use some of those patented Troy Miller retouching skills and remove that person. Yeah, that would be she'd be relatively easy to pull out of there, right? You think?
Yeah.
Some cloning some of this area up here, down in there.
Yeah, I would bring the bushes over, is what I would do.
Yeah,
I feel
bushes.
Like the hedge comes across, and look, it's this is the type of shot that there's a lot of distractions that are going on, and everything from the highlights to we're not making eye contact to there's this hidden person back there. It's a really great shot. I mean, I enjoy the emotion of it, but not having been there to shoot it, like, I'm wondering, okay, what could have been done? Longer lens, more compression, shallower depth of field, better timing.
Yeah. It's the hunt, the photographer's hunt.
Yeah, it's the hunt. Yeah.
All right. Next shot up is from Joshua Sommerfeld. Joshua says, after surrender my low bass guy title to Larry Stewart of the Pine Ridge Boys Quartet, the man opens his mouth and the floor moves, one of the lowest and smoothest bass singers in the business. All right, let's take a look.
Nice.
All right. What do you think of this, Troy?
I was gonna start my critique low, but now I'm not.
I took it away from you. I'm going into
yes, you did. Yeah,
Lawrence Fishburne voice.
I love the moment of this gentleman singing. I feel like he's making eye contact with his audience. The delicate way he's holding the microphone tells me that he's done this before, right? He's not nervous. And I really enjoy that a lot. A couple elements in here that I would probably work on. I don't think we need the image below the waist much. That back left corner has some distracting elements in it.
This over here, yeah.
Yeah, and the lower left corner. Yeah, I would have burned down the top corner.
Oh, down here, yeah. So then you do kind of a square crop like that, or lower?
Maybe something like that. Because I think that the diagonals of the lower quadrant is just distracting. I just don't think there's any story there that we need. So it's all about this gentleman's face, his hands, the emotion in his face. Yeah.
Yep. 100% agree. Yeah, I would even be more aggressive on that. And because like you said, this guy, it's all about who he is. Who cares about these curtains back there or whatever, all this, the flotsam is in there. I would do more of a tight crop like this, maybe with him offset to the left just a little bit, to bring his hands in there. No, you would do it. It just depends. Yeah, but
he's not moving.
Right. I know. It's just my knee-jerk reaction is always to like give a little bit more space on the side that the person is facing. I don't know why. No, it's just how my brain works. But yeah, with a punch in like this, then we get more, because now I'm like, look at that tie. I can see the tie more. I see his cool, facial grooming action there. I feel like I'm more intimate with this character versus not when, there's nothing there. Now I have to look at, okay, now I'm wondering, is that a Brooks Brothers suit or is that JCPenney? Right. So, and it feels like the photographer wants me to know about that suit because I see so much of it. And it's that blue color is taking so much of the frame up. So if I lose some of that and it's just this, now it becomes this guy. It's all about him and those really interesting hands and the microphone with the tape on, all that becomes the image versus the rest of them.
Yeah. And I do wish there was a little more light in his face. And I realize it's stage lighting. You don't have any control over that. And oftentimes, you have, backlight or overexposure. So just maybe a little bit more contrast, a little more specular highlight, soften the shadows in his face, in his head, just a little bit to bring a little bit more attention there. But other than that, I mean, it's a great shot. It's a great promo for him. It's perfect for, everything that he's doing.
Yeah.
I just wish sound guys would realize that photographers see things like that green tape on the microphone. Like you just need one little tiny band on there, right? Like you did.
Yeah. But they'll say, "Oh, you could just take that out in Photoshop real quick." Right? So.
No. I did a wedding where the sound guy set everything up, gave everybody their microphones, and he had these tags on all the microphones. And I told Margie, I go, it's going to suck. I got to take all those out. And then he went by and he took all the tags off all the microphones. And I talked to him later and he's like, yeah, he goes, I'm an amateur photographer. He goes, I know that stuff is horrible. So once I give them their mics, I know what they're assigned to. And I'm like, oh, you and I are best friends.
Yeah. Troy, as a wedding photographer, how many times over the years have you gotten the request to make your subjects look thinner? Like, hey, you're the photographer. Can you make me look thinner?
There's only a couple clients that come to mind, and they ask me regularly. But out of 30 years of all the clients I've ever had, I could probably count them on one hand.
Really? Wow. Yeah. Well. You haven't met my family. Whenever I put my camera out, I was like, yeah, take my picture, but make me look thinner and get rid of this. And it's always that. It's always.
Yeah, they'll say that to you because they're family, but I also work really hard to make them look thinner by posing and lighting and things like that. Mm-hmm. So I do help.
Yeah. They're like, why are you carrying that step stool around with you everywhere, Troy Miller?
Yeah. Why are you always making me look up? Yeah.
Stretch your neck out. Stretch your neck out a little bit. Yeah.
Put your tongue on the roof of your mouth.
Exactly. Get rid of that turkey neck. Just look up here. Look up here. Oh, yeah. I love it. All right. Thank you, Joshua Sommerfeld, for that. Next up is Michael DeRay, Music Pixie. All right. Take it away, Troy Miller. There's a guitar again.
I know. Isn't that awesome? I love it. I love all these guitars. This is a lot of fun. This is one of those things that I think is really wonderful, where you got this nice clean background. It's not super distracting. I see a pretty heavy vignette on this, which I'm okay with, because it brings some light into her face. I'd like to see a little bit more light above her nose, into the eyes and her forehead. But that's just probably how the light, was reflecting, or maybe even how the vignette was placed on the image. But what a stare, you know, and maybe a little work in those eyes, not too much. I'm not a huge fan of overworking the eyes, but she's got these beautiful blue eyes, and I would just love to see them have a little more light in them. And the light's there. Just need to bring it out a tad.
So when explore that a little bit, if you were to work on her eyes and bring those out, would you whiten the whites of her eyes, or would you make the blues in her irises more pronounced? What would you do?
So I'm never a fan of whitening the whites of the eyes, because they're not pure white anyway. So it looks very unnatural to me. What I do love to do is darken the pupil and bring up the highlights that are in the eyes, because reflections give us shape. And, the specular highlights look really nice in our eyes. It tells us that there's light there. And then a little tiny bit of maybe saturation or clarity just in the iris itself, just to kind of bring out that contrast in there.
Yeah.
Because if you sat in front of her and you looked into her eyes, our eyes would adjust to the lighting and we would see all those things. But the camera doesn't do that. So just the most subtle enhancement of the eyes to bring them out can really make a huge, huge difference.
And what about crop on this? And I get wanting to have the guitar in there, and I don't know. This is me just sort of guessing. I'm wondering, would it have been? Where's my annotate tool? Okay, here it is. Is this a viable crop? To go here, or do you need to show the whole guitar, or I don't know.
You never cut off the head of the guitar. And if
okay. So you don't want to crop the guitar. Okay.
Yeah, that's part of her person. As a musician or a guitar player, that's an extension of you. And for guitar players, it's very important that their instrument is in there, unless you very intentionally crop in very tight, and maybe a vertical crop in this case, where now it becomes a portrait with a little bit of the guitar below, right? You've got to kind of find that.
Kind of like
balance.
That then?
Yeah, you could get away with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, personally, it's just my experience doing music photography and photographing bands and things like that. We work very, very hard to keep all the instruments within the frame. And if they're cropped very intentionally, and not just a little bit. It's like a limb on a person,
Yeah. See, as a portrait guy, I look at this and I'm looking at the unused pixels over there and there. Not that every pixel needs to be accounted for, but there's a lot of pixels that we don't need over there when the true goal is this beautiful little girl with her, the eyes and the expression on the face. And I feel like the guitar, I don't look, again, not a musician, but I feel like as a portraitist, looking at it, the guitar is a supporting character, and you don't need very much of the guitar to let us know that she's playing guitar, right? So you show by showing her hands and the fret and a little bit of the body of the guitar, we get it. But by not showing all of it, we're saying, hey, yeah, it's there. You don't need to look at it. What I really want you to look at is her face and the expression. But yeah,
absolutely. That's where I think the cropping needs to just be very considerate and intentional, so that you either crop it deep into the subject, or you leave the guitar in, right? You don't just cut off half the head of the guitar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that would just be a pet peeve of mine in music. If I see that, I just like, oh dear God, like another, 1% of that frame, you could have put the whole guitar in there. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah. It's interesting. I never knew that. I never considered that. And that probably goes for any profession, whether it's guitarist or, you're shooting a pool hustler with its cue. You can get the whole cue in the shot, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, yes, yeah, absolutely. And for a lot of musicians, no matter what your age is, I mean, your instrument becomes an extension of you. So it's important to them. It has an emotional connection. It's a big deal. Yeah, it matters.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Thank you, Michael DeRay, for that. Who's up next? Kai is up next. He says, music, the black keys at Adobe Max. Oh, back in the day, back in yesteryear when they had physical Adobe Maxes.
Yeah.
He says, unfortunately, live concerts are reduced to this. We all do this. It's hard to stay in the moment and enjoy the show. Yeah, no, for sure. What else do you say? I don't want to miss any context here. I miss focus in the shot. However, in hindsight, the soft focus adds to the image. It's about the gesture, not what's on the screen. I can't wait for live concert to pick up again. Yeah, for sure. Okay, yeah. And what are you saying? Yeah, this is live concerts. Everyone's looking at the concert through their phone, or downloading the big app and showing the candle or something during certain parts. But this is interesting. I like what he did here with, in terms of just using out of focusness as the tool, as a compositional tool. It's not intended to be sharp. It's looking at this shot. I look at it as more of a referendum on not being at the concert with your phone, looking at this concert that you paid to be at live, looking at it on a screen that you could be looking at at home on a screen. But yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I love the out of focus of this image. I love that whole aspect, and the sort of abstractness of it is what I'm saying. However, the fact that the edge of his hair is in focus is really killing it for me, because there is a subject that's in focus. There is a point of focus, and it's his hair. And so if you want to go with the whole out of focus, abstract, theme, which I totally dig, I would go in and I would blur the hair and make sure that it's all defocused, so that, because that's all I can see in this image. Is the hair that's in focus, because that's, my eye looks around, I'm looking around, wait, there's hair in focus. Like, what am I doing over here? What am I looking for here? Oh, nope. He must have like fuzz down on his right cheek or something, or there's something going on. Like, there's hair everywhere that's in focus, Yeah. You could have blurred that out. Yeah. And that would have sold the message. I do, what I really like in this, I like the, what do you call it? The bokeh, or the circles of confusion in here, and how those are just, like the artist on stage here, that could be, who knows? That could be Prince or Bill Clinton up there. Who knows, right? And it's just reduced to circles. If it was Prince, there'd be a lot more purple in the scene. True. So we know it's not Prince.
yes. His royal purpleness would have been purple for sure. Yeah. Cool shot though. Really interesting.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. I like that. I really do like the take on using bokeh or out of focusness as a compositional element, because we as photographers, we tend to shy away from that unless it's like a portrait thing, or we're trying to isolate a subject in the frame, i.e. portrait or macro or something. Then it's like, okay, it has to have this crisp element, and everything else can be soft, and that makes this thing pop out. But to consider making the whole thing blurry is really interesting.
Yeah. No, it's a great technique. Yeah, it's really good. It's wonderful.
All right. Thank you, KG. And then I believe there's another one down here. Yeah, Peter.
There's Peter.
How did this get in here 8 hours ago when I sorted by date posted. Did I sort by date posted?
Yeah.
I did, right?
Posted it.
Yeah,
like,
date created.
Monday afternoon after the last critique.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, I'm not going to question it. Music, Russia. Let's bring this one up. All right, so he did a bunch of things here. So the clearly slightly desaturated intentionally, thick border and square crop intentional. It's got a red key line on the inset border. I'm not sure why we need that. I think he probably sampled a color from the uniform and then stroked it in here. I don't know if that's given us anything. The expression I love in here, and I really do love the muted colors because Russia kind of says like, you know, old-ish, you know, there's a lot of history over there. And I know the one thing that's kind of under your fingernail, Troy, in this shot is the slight tilt to the left of the shot.
It's hard not to see, right? It's hard not to see the.
Yeah. Well, it's got all these geometric shapes in here and grids. It forces you to see the lines, right?
Yeah, you know, tilting it clockwise is going to help a lot, I think. I also am not a fan of the glow, that sort of soft glow that's been put on this. I feel like this deserves to be a little bit gritty, and I kind of wish that glow wasn't there. I also really like the fact that you can see Peter reflected in the horn.
Oh, you know what? You and your attention to detail, man. I love that. Here he is right there. I was like, where's Levshin? There he is right there. It looks like he's taking a knee.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and then just, you know, little subtle things in this. I think that the treatment is going in the right direction. But I feel like it's very, very flat, right? Like just specularly and depth of field wise, it's very flat. In there's not a lot of you know, foreground, middle ground, background to me in this, and I think that we could fix that by a little bit of burning down the background, bringing a little bit more light into his face. I'm talking like a quarter of a stop, and I think it could be a lot more powerful. Burning down the stairs a little bit more, you know, left and right. Yeah, I agree. Cool shot, though. I need a list of countries that Peter has been to, because I feel like he's crisscrossed the entire globe already. Yeah, he's been so many crazy places. Cool. So there's one more new submission in the Founders Club, and then those other two that I showed you. Yeah, then those two, right? Okay, so let's go back. Yeah, Stephen. We know that there's a couple other submissions somewhere else. Yeah, we're all over it. All right, Karen Sweeney. Oh my, very late entry. Purple Haze, an homage to the late great Jimi Hendrix. Excuse me while I kiss the sky. Okay. I like the purple. Yeah. What did your eye go to first in this shot? That specular highlight on the button. Mine goes to Crybaby. I don't know. Interesting. And then I go to the specular highlight. No, look, just pay attention. It does. It goes to that specular highlight. You're like, Crybaby, specular highlight. Crybaby, specular highlight. Crybaby. I don't know, man. I think I read first and then I look at the highlight. But I don't know. We will never know, will we? No. Yeah. So, you know, the color saturation is really, really cool. There's a layer effect in here, like a smoke layer, which I don't think we need, at least not over the name and the front of the pedal, because the left of the pedal is very crisp, and we don't really have an effect overlaying on that, where there's something going on, you know, over the top of the pedal, the button area, and the name. And then I would just take that specular highlight down. You basically got to clone it out and then bring some highlight back in, so that it's not so hot. Yeah, that looks like a Jedi sword in there. It's reflecting. It does. It's a Jedi. It's cool. What do you? This is like a duotone treatment where she's introducing that purple color into the highlights, right? Yeah. I love the use of color. You've got that sort of that blue and that purple offsetting each other. I love how the blue is really lighting the face of the wording, right? That's the reflective surface there. And then the edge lighting that's lighting the relief or the raised relief of the wording is purple. I think that's super cool. I just think that's great.
Yeah.
That's just a really great way to do that. So
this has like a retro feel to it too. I don't know. It feels like, I don't know. I can't think of it like 70s, 80s or something, because that's when these kind of color split toning combinations were really popular. I'm curious. Go ahead, Trey.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, I think that I still think it's a very viable commercial look. The split toning and the purple and the deep colors, especially if the band uses those tones, right? I mean, if you're a Jimi Hendrix fan or a Prince fan, the purple was very, very strong in their branding. And I think that right away, this speaks to that.
Yeah. So just before we leave this one real quick, and I know we're running over a little bit, but this highlight that we talked about in the beginning, what would you do there? Like, how would you, like brass tacks, how would you take care of that? Would you start by cloning it out completely and then building it from scratch? Or would you do something more brute force?
No, I would. I would. There's no detail there. It's completely clipped. The detail's completely gone. If you look slightly to the right of that highlight, you see a second highlight. That's what I would shoot for. I would probably clone that and bring that in place of it, because you need some specularity in there to give you a sense that button is round, cylindrical. So you can't just clone it out, because then it'll just look flat. So you need that. This is one of those things where you might want to build a custom gobo or something to block the light to create a shadow on that button while you're photographing it. So, but there's no detail there. There's no way to bring detail back. It's impossible.
So you got to build it yourself. Yeah. Either build it yourself or spot that highlight during principal photography and take care of it then. Right. Yeah.
Just burning it down or trying to burn it in, it's just going to make it go gray and muddy. And it looks like she already tried to burn it down a little bit. I can kind of see some spots in there that have been darkened. You just can't. It's just going to go muddy.
Yeah, there's nothing there. There's nothing to burn, right?
Right, and that button's chrome, so technically it has a color. It's not pure white. It has a color. It's gray, and there is probably a texture on it. So you want to try to get that. I have done some commercial work like that, and I've actually, there were times when I had to photograph the button separately and light it separately with a softer light or something, and then you just drop the button in. Depends on how much work you want to spend or whatever.
Yeah. Kind of like I've been kind of diving into this whole light painting world, right? So it's like that, multiple exposures and then combine them later, much like real estate photography, expose for the windows and then whatever other light sources are in the scene, and then do your work in post-processing. Same for these smaller shots. Same stuff. It's different subject.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Really cool. And one of those wonderful things that we can do because we're shooting digital. Very difficult to do in film, but very easy to do in digital. So yeah. But
the magic tool that you need to do any of that stuff is tripod. Good sturdy tripod. Lock it down, take the shot versus floating around and try to fix it later.
Yeah, and that definitely does help.
All right, Karen Sweeney, thank you for that one. And then I believe we have some other submissions over here, which I'm going to take care of. This group's going away.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and sort this by date created. Who's in here?
I think we have two of them.
Yeah, two. Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah. So we got Marc Charette, the Anthony and Luke show, cropped from, this is a crop from a 360-degree photo. That's interesting. Let's bring this up. That's a good illustration, no pun intended, of how much resolution Marc is capturing in those 360 spheres that you can harvest a shot out of it like this.
Right. I just absolutely love this image. This image is so well put together. Everything from the way that it's cropped on the right, the speaker is still in frame, the piano to the left is in frame just barely. Our verticals all the way in the back are mostly vertical. I think we're probably pretty tight. I know he has a little distortion. So, and what all that feels to me like it's intention, right? There's purpose. The gentleman singing in the center in the foreground is our subject. He and he's right in the center. We know right where to look. We look at him. We see the photo of is that Jesse James or something like that in the background on the door. Yeah, and then of course the pianist looking back at him. I mean, you know right where to look in this image. You're not super distracted by anything else. It's very, very clean. You know, there's no water bottles. There's no trash on the floor. There's the cable is coiled up on the mixer in the back. Like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So cropping wise, we always go into this whole cropping routine, right? So I was looking at this shot and I like it as is for one, you know, because standing alone, this looks like a shot that you'd see lining the halls of some, you know, of Capitol Records or something. This is so-and-so band when they first got started. Now they're worth trillions of dollars.
Right.
Right. But I saw two things in this one. So the first was, and I'm surprised you didn't say anything. It feels like it's canted to the left slightly, even though it's an extraction from a 360-degree sphere. It feels like it's leaning slightly to the left, as evidenced by these vertical lines back here. See that?
Yeah, and that's why I said
line right there.
It's mostly, you know, it's mostly right.
Yeah.
And there's some distortion. I mean, even in the door frame, which that's Frank Sinatra, by the way.
Oh, it is Frank Sinatra?
Yeah, Steven mentioned it and I looked it up. The door frame has a bow in it, right? So that's because he's shooting very wide, and I can see that by the speaker. I can see that by some of the other elements. So I'm totally good with that. But I think you're right. If we gave it just like 1 or 2 degree twist to the
just
right.
Just a nudge. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was like, you know, I think the expression on this guy, you know, looking at, are these the same people? But the expression of this one looking at that one, I feel like that's the shot. The piano, I don't feel like I need to see the entire piano. I don't feel like I need to see this speaker off to the right. I feel like I want to see this amp in there because it, you know, it kind of tells me that, okay, there's sound coming out of one of these speakers. But I think if there was a tighter crop, something more like this, or maybe if you wanted to show all of them like this, you know, just to push in, because I don't feel like I need this stuff outside the frame. I feel like it gets more intimate, and I'm making more eye contact with this guy who's looking at the other guy, you know, with the funny expression. So, and the speaker over here doesn't really do anything for the rest of the shot. We've got one in there already. So do we really need another one in there? I want that amp in there. The rest of the stuff I want in there. I don't feel like I need the entire piano to understand that he's playing one. And that's not the subject anyway. So I'd probably crop in a little bit like this and maybe do some slight vignetting to bring it in even tighter on our subjects in the middle. So, you know, I don't know, I'm drawing a little rough, but something like that, so that we're, boom, now we know what the subject's about. You know, we see the environment, and even with a crop like this, the lack of vertical lines in this wouldn't be so egregious, because we don't see the roof line up here. So we don't have that point of reference. We don't have very many points of reference in order to know that it's slightly tilted, or if it even matters. But then, you know, it just gets in a little bit closer and makes me feel like, okay, this is about these two guys jamming and having fun and doing what they love doing, versus look at this, you know, like as it is now. I feel like I want to read that logo. What is that? You know, what's that? And what's the stuff on the wall here? I want to know what that's about. And then we all got distracted by Frank back there, and then the sing over here. So I don't know. I think I would just punch in a little bit tighter and make the story all about these two cool guys in there, and make everything else a supporting character.
You know, I can see where you're coming from, but
I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong. I think it's two perspectives, and I think it's really important. It's kind of like Armando's shot. For me, being sort of an amateur musician, this is a space that I'm really drawn to. Like, I really enjoy being in a room like that with the musical instruments and the amps and the speakers, and I enjoy seeing them and the cables run. Like, to me, it's not a portrait about them. This is a portrait about an environment or an experience that they're having. And I love all that. I really do. I would probably crop the ceiling off. I don't think we need the ceiling. I would probably have cropped that down a little bit. But other than that, and this really just speaks to perspective of the individual looking at this. From somebody like who's, yeah, and I like the speaker in all the way.
Wow, really? Yeah, see, I would lose that speaker. Like, if I was going to keep it in, I'd keep a little bit of it, because we've got this one back here. Do we really need the full one? Because from the sliver of this one, you can discern that it's probably a mirror of that one. So do we really need the whole thing in there?
I think it gives me a sense of depth. But, you know, those finer points are really about, now it comes down to like use case. You know, what are we going to do with it, and who are we going to present this to? If this is going to be about these guys and maybe, you know, a promo piece for them, yes, crop it in tight, get rid of all that other stuff. If it's a promo piece for the recording studio, you know, you need all that stuff. Or if it's a story about them recording their album, then you kind of need all that stuff. So
yeah, no, for sure. Like, if this was Prince and Morris Day, right? I want to see the whole scene of where they are, because I want to feel like I'm an insider and I know what was going on. I even want to see like little coffee. What coffee were they drinking? You know, were they drinking coffee? You know, I want to know all these little. If I'm a super fan, I want all the details in the shot. If this is a portraiture study, you know, it's subjective, right? You know, it just depends on what the end use is and what the photographer was trying to illustrate when they shot it. So yeah, these comments are not prescriptive at all. It's just like, you know, what would, in our opinion, individually make this stronger.
Right. And so many things that are right and good in this image that it's working. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff there.
But it is missing the guitar, so, you know, it failed.
They could have just taken that chair out and leaned a guitar right there.
There you go. You can do that in post. All right, cool. Thank you, Marc Charette. Really cool shot. I love that one. And then next up is Michael Brown. He says, one of my older pictures from a street fair. Cool. Let's bring this up.
This is fun. I love the expression on her face. That smile that is just so good.
Yep. And we got our requisite guitar too.
Another guitar. Yeah. Yeah. Such a cool thing. You know, images like this, you know, I love her. I love the image in there. The timing, just work on bringing down the background, you know, a little careful burning just to bring her out. Right. The background really is part of the story. That's a sort of a candid photo. But bring that background down.
Yeah. Yep. I'd agree with that. On this shot. You know, and my knee-jerk reaction is always to punch in. You know, what do we have all this space for? We don't need all this space. In this one, though, because it's a street fair, we need that sense of place in this shot. So if we did crop in, it would be a portrait of her, right? And we do everything that do all the things that make this a portrait shot. But I think it's much stronger as a street photography shot, kind of a candid. You caught this beautiful girl on the street playing, and it kind of brings us there. And there are other people in the scene, so we know she's not kind of solo in here. So yeah, I think I like this like it is. I was curious what you're going to say about, or what you do say about the like not putting her whole body in here and cropping her off kind of at the thigh. Is that okay in this instance? Or like, where do you draw the line literally and figuratively when you're cropping limbs?
Well, you don't want to crop at the joint. So you want to crop above the joint if possible. So like, this is a good crop. This is a good 3/4. You know, it works perfect for this. What would be really uncomfortable crop is right above the knee or right below the knee. You know, you gotta commit so that whole limb is in there, right? So a good portion of that body is there. So I think the crop is fine. I love it. I mean, I like the fact that she's holding the guitar. You can see the capo. You know, that she's making eye contact, which I think is fantastic. You got this nice backlight on her. You just have this reflection on the street that is distracting. That's really the biggest thing for me, is that that street is distracting. So some careful burning could really make a difference.
Now, would you like, what am I trying to say? How precise would you be with the burning? Would you select her and then burn and push the entire background back some values, or would you do it more sloppily with just a vignette or something, or hand dodging and burning? Like, what's the best way?
I would be very precise. If you don't, you're going to create a halo around her, which is going to be obvious, and it's not going to look natural. Generally, when you have highlights like this that you want to bring down, usually your subject is darker than the background because the highlight is too bright, right? So it's not hard to do a darken layer and then darken that. It won't really apply to her hair, or, you know, the darker parts of her skin, or the guitar, or the jeans, because the concrete is lighter all the way around, or the asphalt. So, but I would be very accurate. I would be very particular, you know, make sure you look in between her, underneath her arm, in between those two strands of hair, the neck of the guitar, the keys. Like, it's got to be done right. Otherwise we'll be able to tell. It'll be obvious. Yeah.
Really cool shot, though. I like it.
Yep. Very well done. Very well done.
Beautiful. All right. So you gotta pick a favorite.
You know my favorite.
I know your favorite. I think we'll go with that one. This one was Troy's favorite right here, and I think I agree with him. I like it a lot. Yeah. Even though I drew all over it and said that it needs to do this and that. I think I think I like the expressions. I like the fact that it's dead on with the theme. I like the black and white processing of the shot, and it tells a story. It definitely tells a story.
And I think that it fits in the music theme very, very well. It's a very solid music theme. We know exactly what's happening. Everything in this frame pretty much is music related at some point, right? Like, it's solid. It's a really solid image. So I really like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's fun.
And I know you didn't bring up the key line, but I'll mention that the key line's a little big and a little bright.
I'm giving up on the key line.
I know.
Clearly a losing battle.
I'm doing it for you. Yeah, it's a little intense. 3 or 4 pixels is all you really need on this. Yeah. But a key line would look nice.
Or just not. Just not.
Yeah.
See, you know what's gonna happen? Let me stop and share. What's gonna happen is, like, a shot like that, which could be an iconic shot, especially of these guys. 5 years from now, that shot becomes completely famous, and Mark's gonna want to print it, but he's gonna print it with that border on there. If he doesn't have the original file, he's going to print it with that border on there. What if somebody wants to frame it and hang it up?
He's not going to print it with the border. That border is just for you. If somebody were to buy that, he's going to ask them how they want it, and they can choose if they're going to frame it.
Oh, so the border is the digital representation of a physical frame, and it serves the purpose of a real frame, but in the digital world.
Well, yeah, we've already established that.
I don't. Yeah, well, that's. I'm gonna leave that. I'm not gonna die on that hill. I'm gonna leave that
right. And you're never gonna convince me that avocados are worth eating. So.
Well, avocados, especially with tomatoes in there. Oh.
No, they're garbage. No, they're fertilizer. That's all they're good for.
It's good. Everything is fertilizer in the end, right? All right. Well, cool. Well, folks that are watching this recording of the critique, we're going to end this one now and move into our little short after party where we chat with all the people that have joined us in the chat and in the Zoom. If you'd like to do that, make sure you just join the TWiP Pro community, and you too can hang out with us. Troy, next week, give us kind of the scoop as you know it so far about what the competition session is going to be about?
Well, we're going to have a panel of 3 judges, and they're going to get to see all of the winners. And from those winners, they will pick their winner, which would basically be, like we've already done our elimination. So, and from that person will receive the prizes that we've put together. Those are all secret. We can't tell you what they are. But there's going to be some goodies in there. I think the last winner did pretty well, came out on top. So
yeah. And we got to do better every time. So it should be interesting. Yep. So yeah, stay tuned for more details on that. And as we get closer to that, hopefully within the next couple of days, I'll do a post that explains all the criterion, who's judging, prizes, all that cool stuff. All right.
Yep.
So with that, we will leave this one. And yes, we did not give a topic for the next critique session because we haven't sorted all that yet. So we'll announce that shortly as well. And all those events will show up in the events area within the community, and you'll see all the topics. And here we go again, off into the races. But this one will be slightly different. This next one will be slightly different. Like I said, more torque, a little bit more weight to it, and more skin in the game for you folks.
Yep. All right. If anybody has any topics that we haven't covered that you think would be interesting, now is the time to let us know. You can direct message me or probably email Frederick or something, because if you just put it in the chat, we might miss it. But definitely let us know if there are some topics that you want us to put on the list.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. With that, we will we'll end the recording and move into our after party. This is TWiP.